Welcome to the Power Hour. Today we're talking about mastering the art of self-discipline, the missing keys to your success, because they are truly the missing keys to your success. Okay, and I'll get into that in a little bit. The fact that you showed up shows that you showed up for yourself, and that is a huge win. And today we're talking about self-discipline, not in a boring, strict way, but as a superpower to create the life that you want. Okay, it's always important. Again, we control this reality. Okay, but there's always these like ground rules to make sure things work. Amaris says discipline isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. The more you master yourself, the more freedom you create. And we all want to have the freedom to live in our goals, to live out our dreams, to live out the greatest potential that is within us. We all have these goals, but there's these basic ground rules to this universe, very basic ground rules. And one of those major ground rules is action. You have to take action. And if you're not disciplined enough, you're not going to take action. You're going to actually make excuses. And that can actually be the defining factor between you actually acquiring that great goal or that great dream or not acquiring it. What is self-discipline? Let's look at it like this. People think discipline is about forcing yourself to do things that you hate. That is not true. That is really not true. It's really about making choices today that your future self will thank you for. Oftentimes I talk about the fact that you don't need validation from anyone else. And sometimes you got to really stop listening to the background noise. You really do, But one thing that you never stop listening to is yourself. Okay, you got to believe in yourself. You can't go through life thinking that you can't do something, especially if it's something that you're passionate about. You got to put it into freaking action. No way around it, And when you actually talk to your future self, you're training your subconscious mind to understand what it is that you are trying to accomplish and how you need its help, because that's what your future self is. It's your subconscious. You're laying the map, the groundwork to ensuring, very important, ensuring that you reach these goals, these milestones, these epic things in your life. You're going to need your subconscious to sign on, because as we discussed in previous power hours, your subconscious is the soul controller. Either you believe or you don't believe. You have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself and you don't take action, your subconscious is going to be like, they just want the same thing that they always had. Why am I going to even change that? And why do we struggle with, I guess, procrastination? Self-discipline, but procrastination comes to mind because I've lived that. When I lived in Albany, New York, way back in, I think I moved there 2008, 2009. In any event, I got out there and I had a great idea. I wanted to start a business. Didn't really have a job lined up, was actually hustling. I think I used to mod Xboxes for the college kids, just to I bring in a lot of money doing that. It was kind of cool. But anywho, I wanted to get something more established, more recognizable as far as a business is concerned. So what I did was I started, I looked at Craigslist. I started following the local newspaper. I started seeing what was going on in Albany, and I quickly found out, I was like, okay, this is a college town. It's got a lot of bands, a lot of music artists. It's got a lot of venues. The venues are there to bring the college kids in so that they can make money. And there's hip hop groups. There's all of these people out there, doing the damn thing. And I'm saying to myself, and as I'm looking, I'm saying to myself, I'm like, but there's no one representing this. This was like a big, huge opening for me. And I'm sitting up there, what if I created a website that actually spoke to these, this whole music scene, and then I can have exclusives. I could have interviews, I probably get free passes to all these venue events so I can interview artists and take, exclusive pictures and stuff like that. Because the music scene, since Albany had like a lot of like Gen X in it, the music scene, every once in a while, they would get like a write up or a review in the Times Union. But I'm saying to myself, that's not enough. I can charge people to be featured on the front page. I can charge the venues that's actually putting on these music events to go ahead and, pay me for an ad. There's a lot of money in this. And I'm sitting up there and I'm like, I got a great idea. I'm like, yeah. But see, I wasn't disciplined. See, I did all the heavy, the things that I shouldn't have done first. Instead of actually working on the back end, I decided I'm going to broadcast what I'm going to do. Ego. That was ego talking. I'm going to broadcast. I basically put the whole blueprint out there of what I was going to do. And not once in at least 4 weeks did I sit down and do what actually needed to be done, building a freaking website. I didn't do it. I always found a comfortable excuse as to why not to do it. Oh, I got to go to work tomorrow. I'm tired. Oh, I've been waiting all week long for this movie to come out. I got to go to movies. I'm waiting for this video game. It launches today. I want to stay home and play it. Every excuse that made no sense, even to me. And I didn't get it done. And what happened was about a month later, I was going through the Times Union online, and there was a story or article, I think it's still up if you can get into the archives, about a new website that featured local talent. They basically took my whole idea. They basically did, and I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad at them because I didn't take action. Has that ever happened to you? Where you don't take action and then your idea is just like going somebody else. And I'm the type of person, I'm not going to compete against myself because I wrote the blueprint for this. It's mine. It's mine. Why should I have to compete with myself? Looking back, maybe I should have competed with myself, but that's water under the bridge. But the lesson that I learned, the valuable lesson that I learned was, if you don't take action, somebody else will. Somebody else will. I think the last time I looked before I left Albany, they were raking in about $10,000 a month. $10,000 a month for something that basically runs itself. And the only work you have to do is show up at parties and events and, concerts and get interviews with artists that you probably like. So that's where self-discipline, not having it, actually goes wrong. We get distracted by phones, TV, and social media. Social media is the big one. It really is. How many people have gotten locked into the death scroll? Meaning you're probably not going to get off until, you're feeling uneasy or uncomfortable. And sometimes your subconscious will be like, dude, you or Missy, you spent a lot of time here. What have you got done for yourself? What have you actually got done? You haven't even gotten in the damn shower yet. What are you doing? There's a story that I tell about being a tourist or a tour guide. I think it's a very important story. When it comes to social media, there's two types of people, and it's a symbiotic relationship. One definitely needs the other. Okay. If you're a creator and you're serious about creating, okay, you are essentially a tour guide. If you are a scroller and all you do is scroll, you don't really, create content, you use social media for entertainment, you are a tourist. Everybody needs each other. Okay, I get it. But if you stay a tourist, okay, essentially 99% of the time, there's the 1% that you're learning stuff, but 99% of the time, you are basically getting nothing else done but flicking your thumb up and down. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And many people have to decide, you get on these networks and you say, hey, I'm going to be a creator. Well, I get it. You're looking at other people's stuff. You're trying to get ideas. You're trying to figure it out. I get that part. But until you take action, you will stay a tourist. Until you put up a video, you will stay a tourist. You will not be considered a tour guide. Now, there's benefits to both sides. Okay, you tell me which benefit works for you. If you're a tourist, you get all the content that you love. The algorithm will feed you post after post of the stuff that gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling. That's a win-win for you. If you are a tour guide, being a content creator, the platforms that you are on tend to notice that you are giving them content that they can feed to these tourists. So what do? They start giving you money to post more content. Now, let me ask you a question. Knowing that fact, which one would you rather be? A tourist or a tour guide? Very important. It's very, very important. And it all breaks down to, those doubts, those limiting beliefs. Oh, this person's been doing this for years. Oh, I can't make quality content like they do, and I can't do this, and I can't do it. But you haven't even started yet. How do you know? How do you know? Again, it falls down to excuses, and sometimes, we use this piss poor example of, oh, I need to feel motivated. This is the way the formula works. Motivation and inspiration are secondary. You taking action and being self-disciplined is primary. Because when you take action, it's like this huge trickle-down effect, okay? If you take action and you get a return on investment for your action, what happens is you become motivated and inspired to take more action. Doesn't that make sense? So taking action and being self-disciplined to take said action is actually more important than waking up and saying, oh, I feel motivated. I don't feel motivated. I don't feel inspired to do this. I don't know. Maybe I need to get a coaching session. No, you don't. Just take the freaking action. Let me just put this out there. Think about when you're brushing your teeth. How much thought do you put into that? Honestly. Do you sit up there and figure out how much pressure you need to put on the tube of toothpaste? Do you really care about the exact amount that you put on your toothbrush, or you just do it? As I've said in previous power hours, a lot of times we are on autopilot. And sometimes autopilot can be a good thing. And sometimes it could be a horrible thing. Because what happens is if you're on autopilot to make excuses, you will automatically make an excuse for everything that you're supposed to do. It has nothing to do with willpower. It has nothing to do with that. What it has to do with is where your mind is at, where your mindset, where your subconscious is at. Because I'm going to tell you something. The way our subconscious is built, and I've said this before, just go back and look at the previous power hours. I've said this before. The way that we are built is to seek comfort, like this magical man cave in the back corner of our mind. That's what it is. It's got all the games. It's got all the snacks. It's got a nice comfy couch with nice pillows. It's got all your favorite movies, everything to keep you comfortable. What you have to do is you need to switch that around to the point, almost like how I'm kind of getting there, where as I get stuff done, I actually feel better. I feel better than being in the comfort zone man cave if I'm actually getting something done. It's a little different for me because my purpose, I believe, is to motivate and inspire people, And when we talk about excuses, let me put you up on game right here, okay? This is going to resonate with me. I don't have time. I'll do it later. I always mess up, so why even bother? Okay, those are all limiting beliefs. Let me break it down for you one by one. You don't have time. You have time to do exactly whatever the hell you want to do. Believe it or not, you will always have time, okay? You decide how you want to use your time, okay? If you want to spend an hour becoming a master at something for a whole year, 365 days, you will do it. If you want to binge watch Friends, you will do that. That's completely up to you. I'll do it later. One of the things that I learned from my regional manager, I was given a talk to the new hires for my company. And my regional manager was there. And during the break, I'm over by my laptop. He walks over. He's like, hey, did you get that message? Because you didn't really respond. I was like, message? You sent it on my phone? He's like, no, I sent it via email. And he's standing right next to me. And I was like, what was it about, if you don't mind? And he was like, "Oh, I was just letting you know that I was going to be here." I was like, "You're always welcome to come. I'm always going to do what I'm supposed to be, doing." And I went to pull up the email. It wasn't open because I just read the subject and the little blurb that they give, and that was enough for me. And he looked at my email account. And he was like, "You've got like 987 unread emails." And I'm like, "Oh, that's spam." Most of that is spam. And, most of it, like I said, I just actually get the gist of the message and then decide whether I'm going to open it or not. He was like, no, 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 that's not the way you do it. Because what's going to happen is something's going to fall through the cracks. You're going to miss something. So anytime that you go into your email account, I want you to try this. Take action. Delete, respond, or throw it in the trash. But don't leave it open. So now I've gotten to the point where I get my emails down to 0. So anything that comes in is fresh, it's exciting, it's new, and I feel good about that. I always mess up, so why bother? Well, that's a limiting belief. Okay, that's something you're telling yourself. Okay, there's no way in the world that you always mess up. Okay, that's you trying to find a reason to get back into the comfort zone. Okay, again, whenever you have a limiting belief, slap it back down and replace it with a positive belief. As Amaris says, your mind will always find a reason to quit. Train it to find a reason to keep going. Always important. Always important. So I don't know where I left off, but I'm going to go through these. I think this is a good litmus point. There are actually 5 steps to mastering self-discipline. Okay. And the first step is decide who you want to be. Stop saying I want to work out. Start saying I am someone who takes care of my body. Again, you have to always replace the limiting belief, and saying that I want to gives you so much wiggle room to not get the damn thing done. Okay. Start super small. I love this. Sometimes breaking down tasks that you are a little afraid of or wary of into 2 or 3 actionable steps actually makes it easy. It doesn't trigger, if you haven't gotten to the point where you can escape the comfort zone or the man cave comfort zone, it doesn't put undue stress on your subconscious. So you pick 2 or 3 small, easy things to get done. Subconscious looks at it and says, we can get that done. Then we go back to comfort. What you're doing is once you get that done and you reinforce, you're going to get a warm fuzzy. You're going to feel good because you got something done. And subconscious is like clapping. Hey, I'm proud of you. I am so proud of you. You gave us a dopamine rush because you got these 3 things done. Hey, let's go back into the man cave comfort zone. And you say, no, you know what? Can we just do 1 or 2 things? Your subconscious thinks about it and says, yeah, why not? I kind of like the feeling that we had. So if you break it down into manageable, I guess, bite-sized chunks, you will find that it will be just that much easier. Remove distractions. If your phone is stopping you, just put it on silent. Everybody can wait for at least an hour. For real, for real. And I hate to say it this way, but if it's an emergency, they'll probably call somebody else, at the bare minimum 911 if you don't pick up. I think that's part of the problem. We've been trained to believe that if a call comes through, if a message comes through, since our phones are now portable, they're not nailed into the kitchen in our homes, we feel that we need to always be there. Again, if you was out at the store back in 1979 or 1984, if you was out at the store and someone is trying to call you, what would happen? They'd have to leave a voicemail. Okay? Always make your time top priority, especially if you're trying to get something done. Okay. Make a deal with yourself. I love doing that. When I was writing Have a Cell Life, Positive Thoughts for Effed Up World, it took me a long time to get it done. It really did. And I was coming into November, December, and I'm like, I got to get this done. So what I did was, I'm a big fan of Bombay Gin, Sapphire. Big fan. You want to send me a bottle? Send me a bottle. I'm just joking. Big fan of Bombay Sapphire. And what I said was, you know what? I'm just not going to buy any more Bombay. You know what? In fact, I'm not going to have a drink until I get this done. And this went on, and it was painful. I became basically the designated driver for all my friends if we went out someplace because I refused to take a drink. I say I'm not going to reward myself until I get this done. So still kind of procrastinating, but we're coming up on New Year's. So what I basically did was I sat down. I came home from work. I worked the 31st. I came home from work, sat at the kitchen table, fired up my computer, fired up Google Docs, and I got the damn thing done. I only took one break. I finished that book at 3 a.m. in the morning. I only took one break to actually wish, my family members and my close friends a happy new year via text. I wasn't getting on the phone. And I had my sister actually proofread the book for me, and it was ready to be published on January 1st of 2013. It was painful, but I had to stick to my guns. I trained myself, and there was times when my subconscious was like, man, this is a hard day at work. Yeah, man, come on. Let's just go have a drink. Let's just let our hair down. I don't have any hair, but let's let our hair down. And I got to pat myself on the back because I got something accomplished that I really wanted to accomplish. And I refused to procrastinate any further, So making a deal with yourself is always, always cool. And another thing that I'm going to seriously suggest, my mouth is so dry today. Another thing that I'm going to definitely suggest that you do is track your progress. Yeah, give yourself a pat on the shoulder whenever you get something done. Definitely do that. But keep a log of what you're getting done. Keep a paper trail of what you're getting accomplished, because this helps build self-discipline. This helps you figure out that, hey, listen, I can really get this done. As long as I got belief in myself. That's what we talked about on the last Power Hour. Guys, you guys are, I'm glad you're here. Love the fact that you're here. But please, let's leave some comments here. So just imagine someone who used to waste hours scrolling on their phone. They switched to reading for 10 minutes before bed and ended up reading 20 books in a year. What I usually do is I do this thing that I like to call checks and balances, okay? Or assets and debits, whatever word or phrase you want to use. But this really, really works. If you find that, and we know when we're spending an insane amount of time of doing non-productive things, we all know when this is happening. However, we tend to stay in that man cave. We tend to stay in that place where we are comfortable, But if you can't, because it takes work. If you can't get your mind to immediately adapt to breaking off an hour a day, just start with 10 minutes. Just start with 10 minutes and then amp it up. It's like going to the gym. You might have, the first time that you went into the gym, you might have been able to do 10 proper push-ups. But if you add on a couple of push-ups each time that you go to work out, hey, you can get up to 100 kind of easily and kind of quickly. It's the same thing when you invest your time in things that are going to propel you forward. 10 minutes may not seem like much, but if you're learning a new skill or a talent, that 10 minutes is actually better than 10 minutes doing a death scroll on social media when you think about it. When you honestly think about it, it is so much freaking better. 20 books in a year. I still can't believe how that works out. 20 minutes a night before going to bed. What are you doing before going to bed but prepping to go to sleep? Think about, well, there's other things, but I don't want to talk about that. But for the most part, even with that, you're prepping to go to sleep. You are getting your mind wrapped around the fact like this pillow is so comfortable. These blankets feel so good. Oh, this sheet smells so crisp. I got to get some rest. So why not take 10 to 20 minutes before you take it down just to read a book? Or like I like to do, I leave notes of what I need to do the next day. 10 to 15 minutes. Put on my slippers, or before I go down, I'm like, wait, did I make my list? Hey, Go get my bathrobe, put on my slippers, walk over to the desk, and just start writing. I need to get this done. I need to get this done. I need to get this done. Believe it or not, it's such a good feeling in the morning while you're drinking your coffee and you're mapping out your day. Again, motivation and inspiration, it all starts with you being disciplined. That's where it all begins. You have to be disciplined. And let me ask you a really quick question. And you can answer it. Remember, I do a whole coaching service thing. Okay. You can answer it here, or you can send me an instant message or a message or send me an email. Okay. However you want to do it. Okay. But if you're struggling with self-discipline, let's take a moment to figure out why together. Okay, because a lot of the things that I've learned about not being a freaking procrastinator, believe it or not, I've learned from the advice and the mentorship of other people. You know, I'm one of those people that I will put my back up against the wall now. I don't tell the whole idea anymore. I don't put up the whole blueprint, but I make myself accountable. If I say I'm going to have a new book written by a certain time, I start blasting, hey, stay tuned. Make sure that you are on deck to see this new book, from Church of Real Talk. Or if I need to do a long form video, hey, make sure that you tune in because this video is going to be fire, you know. And it's all things that I haven't really started yet. But what I'm doing is I'm prepping my subconscious to understand I'm making myself accountable. See, people like you, like me, that don't like giving excuses, sometimes that's a good way to go, because if you don't like giving excuses, then you're going to get the damn thing done. It's almost like the reverse of the whole giving yourself a reward thing. It's the reverse. You're going to punish yourself because now you've got to face these people. You've got to face these people. If I'm trying to get something done, depending on the trust level and that person, and if they're part of my tribe, I will make myself accountable. I will tell them that, this book is going to be fire. Just wait till it comes out. Blah, 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 blah. And I will talk them to death about it. I'm not really talking them to death. I'm talking myself to death to make sure that my subconscious understands we need to get this done. Okay? No other way. We need to get this done, because if we don't get this done, here's the problem. Here is the problem. If we don't get this done, not only do we embarrass ourselves, we've held ourselves accountable. Now people think that we just make excuses. And I hate that. I hate that anybody can say, oh, you're just giving me an excuse. I've never wanted to be that person. Self-accountability. But if you have someone in your circle that you can trust and they're doubting you, hey, make a little friendly wager. Oh, I'll take you out to dinner. If I don't get this done by this day and by this time, dinner's on me. Drinks on me. I'll take you to the circus. It doesn't freaking matter. Whatever is needed to make sure that you stop procrastinating. And hey, listen, be a real person. If you don't get it done, if you don't pony up, make sure that you honor your equipment. Don't come to the table with excuses. They don't want to hear your excuses anyway. Just come say, hey, listen, promise you I was going to take you to the circus. There you go. I didn't get it done. They're probably going to say, well, what happened? It doesn't matter what happened. I didn't get it done. Let's go to the circus. Put a smile on your face, because it's not their fault. It's your fault. I'm going to tell you guys, and I say this often, but having Amaris as my mentor has helped me so much. This book, I got to get it so it works. There it goes. This book, Chosen Ones, Walk the Path with Amaris. I do a lot of books that actually speak towards positivity. Hold on. I'm trying to get it right. I am trying to get, this is a mess. This is really, and anywho, the book exists. It's actually in audiobook format as well. I'm going to really suggest that you go ahead and get yourself a copy. No, honestly, I really think you need to get yourself a copy. There's so much about being disciplined, and having belief in yourself that this book actually has. You know, if you're struggling with those two things, self-belief, no, three things, limiting beliefs, belief in self, or being disciplined, you know, this book is going to help you. The help I can never get. I can't get it to work. I can't get it to work. But that's why I keep it on my desk, because every once in a while I'll flip through a couple of pages and, you know, gain some insights into what it is that I do. You know, what it is that I do. Now, here's the thing. This is accountability. Okay. Remember, I said that this goes up within 24 hours to Patreon and it's released the following week on YouTube. I'm about 20 minutes short of content. Because what happened was I must have switched the setting. I have Zoom set so that it auto records as soon as I start a meeting. I must have took that off, not making excuses. But I noticed that, hey, while I'm in the midst of this, I didn't hear recording had started. And I looked down, recording hasn't started. So I've got to go back in after this is over and actually recreate the first 20 minutes of this so that I can stay true to my word and have this ready for Patreon and YouTube. See, I'm making myself accountable by utilizing you guys who I actually told that, hey, this is what I do. This is what I do every power hour. Think about that for a second. You've got to spike your punch with discipline. I don't know why I've been saying that all week, spike your punch, but you've got to spike your punch with discipline. You know, if you say you're going to do it, get the damn thing done. If you're having issues or problems or you're hitting stumbling blocks, don't throw in the towel. Just keep pushing forward. There's a solution to every problem. You know, don't be one of those people that has a problem for every solution, though. That's when it gets twisted. That's when you get nothing done. Not a damn thing. You know, and again, the invite is open. Contact. You know, a lot of times I tend to just answer people back, especially if I have a clear and concise answer as how they can move forward. But, you know, sometimes I'll just do that. I'm not going to always say, hey, go ahead and pick a coaching session thing and, you know, we'll take it from there. It's not about that. Again, like I said, my purpose has always been to make sure that people have all the tools that are needed to ensure that they get to the next level of greatness in their existence. I want to close out with something that Amaris says. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't talent. It's discipline. Think about that for a second. Really, really think about that for a second. And I am double dipping because I just looked and saw that I had coffee, and you know, coffee is that's my drink of choice. Thank you for joining me for this week's Power Hour. I look forward to any questions or comments that you may have. And I will definitely see you next week right here on Eventbrite for the live webinar that is called the Power Hour. With that being said, thank you so much for joining me. And as you already know, love you guys.